Welcome back to another episode of Keoni Chats. And February is not just the month of love, with Valentine's Day being on the 14th. It's also Black History Month. So this month I decided to challenge myself by trying 3 different Black-owned restaurants within the Portland area using the website iloveblackfood.com. So I'm trying to coincide these restaurant tries with my episode releases. I wanted to try and expand my horizons. I want to try and taste different foods from different continents and just see what I like and what I don't like, and what can I help promote, or how can I use this platform to show the support for whichever restaurants I try, and see what I can do about. I'll never know if I give this restaurant a plug and they end up getting more business from it, but you know, it's better than just not doing anything at all. So check out next week's episode where I will try some random restaurant from iloveblackfood.com, and it'll just be some random surprise. So very excited because, you know, spontaneity is always a fun thing to work with. So today's episode is with Mariah Mills. Mariah and I met during Duck TV back at the University of Oregon. So if you watch the Kylie O'Connor episode about maybe in the teens, so she is also a Duck TV alum. And there was a time where I would talk to a lot of people, or a lot of my guests, so this would be episode 35, so a lot of my 34 other guests were from my time with Nike Portland. So while that was great, they have great stories to tell, I wanted to go into the next stage of my life and try to talk to people that were involved with that stage. And luckily, you know, Mariah, she is a very busy woman with her job as a reporter for Kobe TV down in Medford, Oregon. But she was able to take some time out of her 2 days off and talk with me. But outside of just talking about, you know, the topics I wanted to hit with her, it was just nice to catch up with her. It was just nice because, you know, I'm up here in Portland. She is down in Medford. That's like 6 hours or so drive, and you know, it's not something I can do, like, let's say pre-COVID. It's something I can do just overnight and then come back the same day. It was something that, you know, it's one of those things where, like, oh, distance does suck, but you're not too far enough where I can't make the commitment to go see if I really want to. And again, think pre-COVID. So yeah, it was a great conversation just because she was able to continue that career from Duck TV and make it to a full-time job for her. So I'm still looking to get that. So a little bit of envy on my end, but also a whole lot of praise and a whole lot of happiness for her to be able to finally get her career going in the right direction. Not just in the right direction, just get her journalism career going in general. So before I send you off to that interview, I want to give a quick happy birthday shout out to David Rodriguez, who is those people that are very close to you and they are like siblings, but not really siblings. He is one of those people. So he is a man that is my brother's age, and you know, I've known him practically my whole life. So, you know, at his wedding, I did make a toast, which was my first time ever talking on the mic during a wedding. So, yeah, I told him, like, you know, there's those people that you say they're like brothers, but he is a brother. So, I was very happy to celebrate his weekend, or just get to see him for a little bit this past weekend, as his birthday was on Monday, February 1st. So mark that on your calendar, guys. So, yeah, he got so invested when I told him that I have a podcast and I'm trying to get it going, and you know, to see his interest and to always find critiques and just find ways to help me improve. It's invigorating. It's also like, oh, people actually like paying attention to this. Granted, this will be episode 35, but you know, you still never know, because having to be your own marketing person, it's odd, but it's also, when it works and people actually bring it up and ask questions about it, it's a great feeling. So happy birthday to him. He's also, just a longtime friend of the show and longtime friend of myself. And there is also still some things I need to work on as far as getting it out to the public for the DC animated movie review series, the last little bit of movies that I did miss in my time of working on the series. So it's been a little bit, it's been hard for me to really pay attention to that one, with the Super Bowl A being, well, at the time of this episode release, being the next day. So with the Super Bowl and mock drafts, and also editing photos from the Dylan Vibes photo shoot that I shadowed on MLK Day, and just any other times I took my camera out to nature or whatnot, or just want to get more practice with with Photoshop and see how else I can expand my abilities that way. So how you can keep up with these episodes that I'm releasing, or the photo shoot photos that I would be releasing, or the mock drafts, or the DC animated movie review series, you'll follow KC Media on social media. So the handles are KC Media 13 for Instagram and Twitter, and then Conlu K Media for Facebook. So subscribe, follow. Also, Keoni Chats on YouTube is how you can find the video versions of all of these episodes, not just this one, but all 34 previous. So follow, subscribe, ring the bell, however you want to stay in the loop as far as when all of those creative contents get released. So however you are listening to this episode, on whatever platform you prefer, or if you're watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoy my chat with Mariah Mills. This is my first ever podcast interview done through an iPhone 12. So, folks, if you're seeing this resolution and you're just like, holy smokes, my camera feels insuperior now. Well, that's okay. It's okay. Mariah Mills in the house, virtual house. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. And you?
So usually I kind of plan my I plan my interviews on the weekends, just because it's easier for people to kind of get geared up towards that interview, because it's usually on a Sunday. But with you in your job, I had to make a special exception. Post work, trying to shake off that
thank
rust.
You. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have the weird schedule.
I mean, I would expect nothing less as a reporter for the NBC. Okay, so the official title is it? I wanted to call it like the NBC branch of Medford. What is the official station title?
So it's an NBC affiliate, but it's Kobe TV, and it's so it's NBC affiliate, but we're also partnered with Fox. So I do stuff for Fox 26 here as well.
So it's official. It's called Kobe TV, like Kobe Bryant. Please tell me something happened there, right? So you just shout out.
It's Kobe with an I. It's Kobe with an I, not an E. But yeah, it's NBC5 News, I guess is the technical name, but people know us as our call name, which is Kobe or Kobe TV. So yeah.
Okay. And now, for a lot of people, I guess, for like putting myself in this category, where I graduate University of Oregon, I graduate college, I want to go make it on my own. I want to not live with my folks coming out of college. And, granted, that is an acceptable path for people. You went from up north, you went from Medford to Eugene, back to Medford. What is it like being back in your hometown?
Incredibly boring, I'm not going to lie, but I think that's the case anywhere because of the pandemic and there's not much happening. But it's good to be home, and like all of my family is here. So it's just nice and familiar in that regard.
Yeah. Now, again, going back to perspective, as you're a reporter, you're usually asking the questions and you're answering. What was the perspective change from when you left to go to college and now when you came back? Like, do you feel like the school hallways, like if you visit high school, it's like smaller, or?
Honestly, I haven't really thought about that. When I first left here, it was just like excitement. Because I didn't know if I wanted to study journalism or become a teacher at the time. And then when I came to U of O and I saw the journalism school, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. But being back here now, it's way different because I'm more focused on my career and what I'm doing. And obviously it's a different type of stress compared to school stress, which I'm sure you're familiar with as well. It's a weird transition going from student to professional because you don't feel like one right off the bat. There's still so much to learn, but that's just kind of how I feel.
I've talked to a few people and they brought up, one through like one of my guests, former guests, and there's one as a friend, where they just brought up the imposter syndrome, where they're like in this new situations and they don't think they're qualified. How did you? I mean, granted, you were in the Duck TV program longer than I was, so you have more practice, more stuff on your reel. But how did you overcome that imposter syndrome when you got to Kobe, not Kobe Bryant TV?
So honestly, I was just trying to get my foot in the door with Kobe. I moved back here and I was like, okay, I'm just going to apply to the local news stations. Get threw together a terrible first reel, which I'm sure you know, our first reels are just the worst. But I went in and I actually applied to be the live van operator, which is completely different. It's more of like the technical side of things. And I guess they liked me. They had me come shadow and like set up the van and everything, and then ended up calling me back later and saying, actually, we want you to join our news team as a full-time news reporter, which I kind of told them was what I wanted. So it just kind of worked out in my favor. And I think they liked, that I'm from the area. So I know it. I know a lot of MMJs move to big cities, new cities. They've never been in new states and they don't know anybody. They don't know where they are and they kind of learn it once they move there, So for me, it was just easy. Like, I'm here. I know it. Let's go.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I did a Google search on you, which is, with you having a little more high profile job than other people I've talked with in the past, it's easier to find
Mhm.
your work through the loveliness of Google. And I've noticed that a lot of your stories are not sports related. And when you were Duck TV, obviously we were in the sports department or sports sector together. Do you miss it? Or are you just like, I'm okay with where I'm at now?
Oh, 100%. If I could go back to sports reporting in a heartbeat, I definitely would. Kobe just does not really have a sports section. We don't really have like a designated sports reporter because that's not really how our shows work. It is very much more local news based. I
Mhm.
mean, when I did find stories before the pandemic, there was this girl at a local high school here. She broke school history as the first female wrestler to win state. And I thought that was awesome, So I pitched the story. My news director went for it. So I guess now I've made a transition into I'm not like reporting on highlights and the actual game itself, but I'm doing more character pieces of people. So it's just been a little shift. And, I'm hoping maybe my next market I can do some more sports related stuff. But for now, it's more news.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta have that diverse. I was just say diverse, or I think that's right. We're diverse. Yeah. Grammar. I sort of know it. That
D-
diverse. Uh,
Diversity. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Diversity. We graduated from
Yeah.
from college. Just want to make sure people know that. You gotta have that diversity of topics you can cover. Because I know when I was working at Lane Community College for their student newspaper, I covered not just the women's soccer or men's cross country, but I also did like a recycling program. I also did some other like sustainable things that Lane was doing around campus. So it was nice to test the waters a bit.
Mhm.
It was nice, but finding that person,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
No, and
yeah,
they do that, yeah. It's definitely been a shift, but it's been a good one for sure. I'm glad that I know what I do because news is a lot different, which you find as you go along and learn everything, but still similar.
yeah. Now I've talked to one of our Duck TV alums, which she's going to be a guest a little bit down the line. I won't name names because I like building up suspense. I like having surprises, but she also went into writing for the newspaper here in Portland, and she had a little bit of a podcast on the side. Is that something you've thought of? I mean, you just said you like the personal story piece of it all, and with this being your first podcast, is this something you could see yourself doing down the line?
Like me doing my own podcast or just like regular written news.
Your own podcast where you can talk to
Um,
people about their lives.
I honestly haven't thought about that. And with the way my schedule is, I usually like to take my time and hoard it to myself for my own mental health reasons. So probably not. Um, but maybe in the future when I'm like, everything isn't so chaotic, things in my are kind of in a whirlwind. So I haven't thought about that. But it would be interesting because I do like talking to people. I'm a sociology minor, so I like to study people and all of that good stuff. It just kind of goes hand to hand. So
Yeah.
maybe.
Hey, if I always thought of, yes, no, maybes as like a door closing. It's like, yes, door is open. No, close. Maybe. Hey, that crack. Let's work with that crack on that door and just blow it open.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. It's just
You know what? I just went along with it.
thank you for understanding. Thank you for understanding. So you said
You're welcome.
earlier that you left Medford to go to University of Oregon with with an idea to become a teacher. Why a teacher?
And honestly, I just liked working with kids, or at least I thought. My senior year of high school, I did an internship at an elementary school with like first graders, and just the bratty attitudes got to me after the first hour. And I knew kind of right after that, I was like, I don't want to do this because I knew for a fact I wouldn't want to teach middle schoolers or high schoolers. I wanted to teach kids.
Hmm.
And then after that, I was like, I don't think I can do this because I might get fired for saying an expletive in front of a child. So, and then, yeah, I don't know. I had to do an interview because I was really involved with 4-H. I was like the president of my club at the time, and the 4-H association, I guess you could call it, asked if I wanted to be interviewed for this local OPB broadcast. And I did. And that was kind of my first taste of broadcast, if you will, being in front of the cameras, the lights, and talking and doing this. And I really liked it because I hadn't thought of journalism in that aspect before. I'd always been involved with just like creative writing.
Mhm.
So that was kind of when the bulb went off, and I went, maybe I could look into journalism. And then I looked into U of O's programs, and I was like, all right, well, in-state tuition cannot be beaten, so I'm going to
Mhm.
pursue that.
Yep. Yep. I've I think 2 guests ago, he's an LA native, but he and I were talking about how we would like to have some sort of aid when it comes to paying off student loans. And then he's like, yeah, because out of state, it's buckling me down right now. And I'm, making that a little censored, but yeah, I feel pretty
Yeah,
lucky to
yeah,
have gone to school at University of Oregon, not just because of that prestigiousness they kind of carries as a sports fan. Um, but it's just, I got to meet
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, and also just go Ducks,
Yeah.
always.
Always and forever. Except
Yeah.
for when we lose the Civil War, like we did this year.
Oh, yeah, no, 2020 doesn't count for sports. I thought we all agreed on that. Unless your team wins,
Mm,
right?
yeah, yeah, that's
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 what
true.
I heard.
It was such like I do fantasy football, so this was the most
Mhm.
infuriating season I've ever experienced my whole life because like the
Yeah, how many
players,
people
yeah,
to sit
yeah,
out?
either
Yeah.
either sit out or they get hurt in the beginning of the season and they are never the same again. Mm,
Yeah. I didn't do fantasy this year, I did last year. Yeah, I think it'd be too hard to do fantasy because of the pandemic.
yeah, yeah. I last year I got first place. This year I think we played with like 12 teams. I got like eighth, ninth, so it's still like respectable. But that fall from the top of the mountain hurts.
At least you won once,
Thank you,
at
thank you,
least.
thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tell my competitors, and then just make sure they have another unbiased opinion to just chime in the chat group and be like, Keoni won, suck it.
That's funny.
So going back to your discovery of journalism after our little tangent, we'll probably have more tangents about sports. I mean, it's bound to happen, but
That's okay. That's okay.
eh. Um, so when you came in from the journalism program, did you immediately know about Duck TV, or were you thinking I'm going to write for the Daily Emerald and then work my way to Duck TV? Or what was your path once you got into the school?
I was a first generation college student. So I didn't really know entirely what I was getting myself into my first term. And honestly, I kind of went on academic probation and kind of had to pull myself up from my bootstraps. And I did. So it worked out. But I wasn't really looking into extracurriculars my freshman year. In fact, I didn't even join Duck TV until I was, I think it was my first or second term of sophomore years when I joined Duck TV. Because that's when I started getting more involved with the school. I kind of knew more of the professors, and I noticed that they had auditions, and I was like, I'm going to try it and just see if I like it. I wanted to make friends and I wanted to be involved with something because I'd finally, after the first year, found a balance with my schoolwork and stuff and felt comfortable to take on something else, if that makes sense. Because I was also working part-time at a restaurant. So I was trying to make sure that I could have time for me, which virtually I didn't. But ultimately, it all worked out. Once I got involved with Duck TV, it just kind of took off, and the broadcasting just kind of is what I stuck with and really enjoyed.
Yeah. So, did you have kind of this holy crap moment when the lights got turned on? Because when you were back in Medford, I think that's what you just said, where you were in Medford, you got to do a little bit of broadcasting with them before in high school. Now, I assume those lights aren't as bright as Duck TV's. Now, when the Duck TV lights flashed on, what was your first thought, if you remember?
Probably nervousness. I mean, that was my first time really being in front of a camera, and how awkward we were at 19, how awkward we were just in general around each other because we didn't know each other that well. I want to say the best years of Duck TV were definitely the first two that you were in it with me. That we had the whole squad. I don't know. We all connected. We were all always working together. I feel like there were other times in Duck TV where it wasn't always like that. So I think it's really special that we had our squad when we did in that 2015, 16, 17-ish era, I guess.
Yeah. Wait, 2015 was your sophomore year?
Yeah, it was the beginning of it. 2015, 16 was my sophomore year because 2014, 15 was my freshman.
Okay.
I know. Is it crazy? That was 7 years ago. And I'm like, oh, God. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Luckily, I think that's why I don't want to date anyone that's younger. So it's I don't want to introduce something to them, be like, oh yeah, I used to watch this movie back in let's say 2010, 2011. And then they're like, I've never heard of that. I'm just like, oh dear God. Oh, so much to teach you.
Educate them. They probably need it. They
Yeah.
probably want to watch it.
Yeah.
So.
They just don't know that they want to watch it.
Exactly.
So what would you say was, the okay, actually have you seen your first package at all? Obviously you've probably kept some of your stuff. I mean, maybe all your stuff, so you can make your own reel.
I've kept a good chunk of it just because it's more nostalgic at this point. I don't think I would ever use it for a reel now unless I, didn't want to get hired. So.
It's if I really want to sabotage myself, I'm going to give them my first ever highlight package.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. It works for your first market, because first markets expect that. They usually take the MMJs who are fresh out of school. But once you're done with that, it's it's no.
Yeah. It actually wasn't until I started this podcast where I actually found my comfortability being in front of a camera, some version of a camera, and actually be able to string a coherent sentence together and actually throw in a little charisma and that charm. And now I'm like, only if I had this practice when I was back in school, where would I be now?
Yeah. Did you ever do the radio? I forgot what it's called. There's the sports radio thing on campus.
Yeah, KWVA, I think. A friend was a radio host for that
Yeah.
No, it was I did Daily Emerald.
I tried it for 2 terms. I hated it.
You did?
Yeah. I didn't like it. Well, I just want to say, like most things, it was the ratio for boys to girls was gnarly. It was 12 dudes and me and one other girl. So, yeah.
I mean, I would say that journalism in general, I mean, at first, from when I was younger watching it, a whole lot of males. And now, as I'm, I guess, progressing through the years, I'm seeing more and more females. What is it like for you to step into this kind of industry and know that it's a little bit of an uphill battle for you?
I guess I just don't think of it that way because I'm very self-confident and aware of what's going on. I don't really think about other people and what we're doing. I guess I don't feel that sense of competition. I just try to put my best work forward, and I just work on what I'm doing to become better, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So, I don't get intimidated easily, and I don't feel like I've had that challenge yet. I think it will get harder as I go further, because there's a lot more pressure to be better and to, I don't know, just there's so much to it. There's like being better at editing, being better at shooting, being better at like presenting, and like trying to just make sure I look decent because I probably might have a live shot or something while I'm still trying to work all day long off to the side. And it gets a little chaotic, but you just got to keep going.
What is that like for your, you talked about how you don't want to start podcasts because you need that mental health, mental day off. What
Mhm.
what are you like when you are, like, the plate is getting full? For some reason, when it comes to like work, I always think of like you're in a line for buffet and then you keep putting more and more on your plate because you think you can handle it. Next thing you know, the plate's filled, pouring over. How do you handle that overfilled plate? Like what's your plan?
So, I mean, this is like we're talking some day, every day is different. And that's also why I love journalism because some days it's pretty easy. I have some small, simple stories. My interviews all work out and everything is great. And then there's other days where nobody gets back to me. And then next thing you know, I have 30 people blowing up my work phone at 3:45 and I have to turn these stories by 5 and 6. So it depends on the day. But if it is a heavy pressure day, I kind of zone out. Like I don't know what else to say. I like put my personal phone on do not disturb. I don't even touch it. I like work on everything I can before then. So I'll try to like pre-write my scripts if I have time. I try to collect B-roll or go shoot B-roll if I need it. I try to do everything I can just to stay on top of the game. But again, it really depends on your subjects and your interviews because without that I mean that's like your whole story unless you have like a voiceover which is just like a 30-second segment with just b-roll in your script, but that's rare. And most of the time I have packages or vosots, so I'd
Okay.
say it really depends on the other people.
Yeah.
I try to work around it and be prepared, but it's yeah, you never know, you really don't, so it's
Yeah.
fun.
Is there any sort of like, I don't know, like endorphins that get released when you are in super stress mode, or where you're just like, that feeling of productivity is just, it's great feeling because you're just like, oh, I just basically covered A to Z in 10 minutes. But it's also like, holy crap, I just covered A to Z in 10 minutes. What's some
Yeah,
silver
I would
linings you find?
say it doesn't really hit me until after my shift, I would say, because I get so focused and I actually work better under pressure. So for me, I just am like in the zone until it's over with. Then my shift, when I'm getting home, I'm like, I don't know, I'm like a flower that just completely wilts finally. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I need to come home and just have one glass of wine before bed and just, chill out a little bit and just take a deep breath and go, wow, I did this, and this today and I handled it. And again, it varies on your stories. Like if I cover a super sad story about somebody who just passed away, then I just had to hear, when you interview those people, you can feel their energies. And sometimes when you cover like a hard story like that, like covered a story with a mom who lost her baby at birth. So she's leaving Dutch Bros gift cards around our hiking trails here as like a gift in memory of her daughter. And her telling me her story, she was getting like choked up. And it's really hard to be professional, but you also want to be personable because it's like, okay, I'm also a human. I'm here to listen to you, but I don't want to sound like a robot. So that's really tough because it's like I want to sympathize, but as a professional I kind of have to like hold back a little bit, and it's tough, you never know, you really don't, but I do love the job and I handle it the best I can, but definitely have to unplug. I would say definitely social media will be the first thing to go for me if I'm feeling super overwhelmed because I just, yeah, I can't.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the year 2020 was, it makes sense to want to take a step back, a giant step back from social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as much as I can, at least. I kind of can't completely pull the plug on it because of my job.
Mm.
I would love to. Sometimes I really think about doing it, but I'm like, I literally can't. So, yeah.
How can you tell me about a moment when you maybe when you started out and then going back to that situation where like the person you're interviewing has just suffered a big tragedy and then you're trying to stay professional, but then you lean a little too far into the personable, and then when you see the film again, you're just like, what's your thoughts when you had that moment where you just went a little too personal versus staying professional?
Um, I guess I'm trying to think of a story off the top of my mind, but when that's the case, usually I will throw facts out there that are relatable to them or something we have a common ground on, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So that way we connect. When you make that connection with the person, they're more likely to open up to you. I've had people that I've talked to and they're like, no, 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 I don't want to go on the camera. I'm not comfortable with it. And I say, hey, you know what? That's okay. Can you just talk to me here and now off the records? And I can just take some notes and kind of have an idea. Then they start talking to me for a minute or two. And then, they'll sometimes be like, if you have a minute, I can actually talk on camera.
Mm.
So I guess I use it as a tactic sometimes, which might sound messed up, but it is just me forming a connection saying like, oh, this has happened to you. I had something like that happen to me recently. And it's like, oh, you did. And it makes it easier. It's like a bridge the gap kind of thing because these
Yeah.
people are complete strangers most of the time. I'm the one who reaches out to them. And I know that they're opening up to me. And I'm always grateful when people are willing to do that because they don't know me. I
Mm.
mean, other than the fact I work in BC and they're like, okay, that's the only reason. If I were to just walk up to anybody on the street and say, hey, can I interview you? They'd probably be like, no.
Yeah, it's like, is this for an actual like news thing or just for your sick games?
Yeah. Yeah. What is this for the tube of you? TikTok?
The tube of you. That's a new one.
Yeah. That's a Mariah trademark.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm happy you'll be able to share that trademark on my show. And I feel like, this should be plugged into your newscast going forward. Just saying. Don't actually do that because I don't want to get you fired. This year, there are so many things, like as far as a reporter, that the major stories just came out of the woodworks as far from like February, from when COVID hit all the way to elections, and then most recently all of this Capitol Hill, the assault on Capitol Hill. Now, being able to separate yourself, compartmentalize, which I've had the worst time trying to say that word, so I feel really good I said it correctly. How are you when it comes to seeing all these major stories that are happening across the world, like Black Lives Matter, COVID, you got the elections? When you see this, and then let's say you go back to social media, how much are you trying to like not be too emotional, not trying to be too aggressive, or are you just trying to stay that fine line again because you are representing a news station and a big company like NBC?
I guess I separate myself because we are human. We do have emotions. I think honestly the whole unbiased journalist perspective is outdated. I think everybody has opinions and I think everybody's slightly biased no matter what. Like you
Mm.
can't be not biased. You're going to have thoughts and feelings on certain things. For me, I try to just keep my own self out of it, but I know that I'm going into it with my own perspective. And, that's just kind of how it is. So, usually, if that's the case, I focus obviously on my subject or my character. And, that's why our scripts are always he says, she says, this organization says, because it's them, not me. And
Mm.
that's kind of something we have to watch out with our reporting. So, we don't get sued,
Yeah.
honestly. So, yeah. Yeah.
do, do you ever wish sometimes you were back with the small stations, something that wasn't affiliated with NBC or Fox, the big guys or big gals of the news world?
I guess I don't think of it though like that because this is considered the beginning stage. Then after this you go to your second market, third market, and you can kind of advance all the way to the top if you really want to. Again, I'm talking years, that
Mm.
take years and years, but this is the beginning, especially for at least for news, and I'm grateful because that at least gave me the idea of what it's like to sit behind the desk, to read off of a prompter, to be out there and do some sort of reporting, even if it's different, so that's
Yeah.
how I feel, at least.
I mean, it's also Duck TV. I guess when you compare the two, Duck TV was a little more free flow versus like what you're doing now with Kobe TV.
Oh, absolutely. It was like so student run, It was like, yeah. It was like show up to studio or I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, do you remember that? Do you
I can't.
remember it was like you had to sign up?
Yeah, I think I did a couple studios, but yeah, I just remember just show up and it wasn't that comfortable where I could sit behind the prompter and then like move it down at a comfortable pace. So I was like behind camera one. I just remember I was like super quiet and just being like hands in the pocket, kind of swaying back and forth just to make sure. And then, if I hear like Deuce saying like zoom in on camera two, I was like, oh crap, that's me. Okay, sorry.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Now you're in the, I guess the adult world of, the news station. Do you go to, who do you go to when all these stories, all the emotional stories kind of takes a toll on you? Let's say outside the family, who's your go-to person?
It pretty much is all the family. I'm sure HR would love for me to go to them, but it's just my own personal thing. If I don't have to talk about it at work, I'm not going to. I mean, I totally recommend somebody do that if they need to, but it's just for me, it doesn't really help me to talk to human resources. For me, it helps to just talk to my mom. Like there's been times where I come home and I had to go out to late breaking news to like a shooting or a terrible car wreck. I've seen dead bodies, which is not fun. And when that happens, I come home and I see my mom, and just the sight of her, I'll just start crying, burst into tears just because it's a lot. But for the most part, I keep my stuff pretty much reserved and just keep it to myself and only vent when I need to. It's also very helpful to sing at the top of my lungs in my car. I do that a lot.
What's your go-to song?
Super bass, Nicki Minaj.
Really? Okay. Oh, good friend Dylan Vibes, who I've also shot on a photo shoot and was also a previous guest and went to University of Oregon with. So being able to see this guy work, it's been pretty fun. But he took his personal training abilities out from the corporate business and he is making his own business. And he also now has a training app where if you go to vibestraining.com, click the blue button and then register, it will prompt you to download his app where you'll have a wealth of workout activities ranging from 5 to 60 minutes. Then you can go from having no equipment needed to potentially some bands or using that dumbbell again, but in a different way. And now he is doing these workouts with backpacks. So he's very creative, he's very energetic. And what's great about it also is that you'll have a way to log in all your progress and keep track of how you're doing. Also have access to a community of other fitness enthusiasts that are here to help you with your problems or just praise you when you made some progress that you're very excited for. It's great to have people to, you shouldn't need people to be your own personal cheerleader. You should be able to do it yourself, but it also is pretty nice to have that kind of support. And so sign up with Vibes Training, and then you will have the support system you need to reach the goals that you have set for yourself, not just for this year, but for every single month. Because who knows, if you just want to change your goals up every month, that's fine too. But Dylan Vibes, of Vibes Training, he'll help you reach your goals. Now, does the car speakers supplement that feeling? Does it supplement with the bass?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes I've actually been getting on myself as I get older because I'm like, I need to stop like blaring music when I drive places because I'm so used it's just usually me in the car. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, just turn up the tunes, and like I have about a half-hour commute just to get to town where I live right now. So it's a happy place for sure. And the bass is A1. So yeah, it works out phenomenally.
There you go. So have you thought about seeing a
Mhm.
therapist or anything like that? Because if this works for you as far as keeping everything fine, but as far as for myself, leaving college, I saw a therapist, and people fans of the show or just people who have listened to the show consistently know I've talked about this numerous times where it does help a whole lot just to
Mhm.
share everything. Is this something you've thought of as far as seeing someone? Again, that's just
Yeah.
sounds. It's not old school mindset
Yeah,
where
I
it's like
mean, I've definitely thought of it. Oh, no, there's no shame in that at all. I just haven't pursued it because I feel like it's been tough, this job and things, but like again, with the pandemic, not that much happens. So when I talk about that breaking news and the dead bodies I've seen, that was like the beginning of my career. And what most people don't realize is I was only like in the regular news before the pandemic for like 4 months. So the majority of my career has all been pandemic, and that's been really hard because it's affected like live shots and going in studio. Like they wouldn't let us because of COVID, especially at first because they didn't know how contagious and how bad it was. So that
Mhm.
kind of stunted me a little bit, I think. And now it's like getting better, and he's letting me do a lot more because also a lot of our reporters have recently left, and so now I'm like the most experienced one there, which is crazy because I've only been there for like a year and 4 months now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Look at you shooting to
Yeah.
the top. Well, yeah, there you go. You
It's
can.
kind of, it feels weird. It feels weird to me because I still feel so new. And, technically I kind of am. It's just the turnaround rate's been crazy because a lot of journalists, I should say, are getting burned out because this has just been such a tough news year. It's really hard to find story pitches when there's no events, so you have to get very creative. And even then, it's still kind of a repetitive loop of COVID. Or even if you do a story that's not COVID related, it's social distanced due to COVID, or you know what I mean? It's always there. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
So I
And
see.
that I think is draining on the mental health, which coming back to the therapy, I've considered it. Yeah. I just feel like it hasn't gotten there yet.
Okay. You're let's say you're like maybe like 95% committed to the idea. You said still it's getting close, but it's not you're not ready to take that leap yet.
Yeah. No. And I also know that I think through insurance, I think I have a couple sessions through work to go talk to somebody, which
Mhm.
is really cool. So I know I have the option if I need it and when I want to pursue it for sure.
Okay. There you go. Well, you didn't cover just COVID stuff. I
Mhm.
mean, I saw you covering the voting, I guess the voter counts and basically the
Mhm.
county votes. And then, you also got to cover the wildfires that happened in September of this past year. I saw you in the yellow jacket. I saw you just out there in the soot and all that. What, I mean, beginning of your career with Kobe, you did see some dead bodies, but what was it like seeing the forest and all the burns and all that damage that came from the wildfires?
So, as somebody who actually grew up here, every summer there's pretty significant wildfires. So that's actually pretty normal.
Oh,
So, when we go to work during the summer, we have all that fire gear like on us. Every news car stocked with that fire gear because we know there's fires pretty much every year. I know that's terrible. You can also blame global warming for it getting worse. But what was so exceptionally terrible about the Alameda fire is that was right in town. And that literally wiped out 2.5 towns. And those 2.5 towns that were wiped out were also where most of our low income families and low income housing was. So it's terrible. Those people lost everything. I
mhm.
even had to evacuate my apartment because I lived in Talent. And I was taking videos. I could see the smoke was like right there. I mean, the whole neighborhood at my old apartment completely burned to the ground. The stores on the other side completely burned to the ground. I don't know how my apartment didn't fully burn, but like my roommate was not comfortable staying there after that. So she broke the lease and I couldn't stay there by myself. So I left too. But it just, yeah, it was devastating. I've never seen anything like that, especially in Southern Oregon. It's a fairly small town. It is growing, but it's still, it's no Eugene or Portland by any means in comparison. So it was just heartbreaking. People are still struggling to find housing. People are living in trailers, and they're grateful just to have that trailer because, they don't have anything else. And it's terrible. And then when you think about the pandemic on top of it, there's been a lot of struggle because it's like, okay, we can't house all these people together. So it's a process. I don't think the Rogue Valley is going to be the same for a while, at least for the next decade, because there's so much that's going to be rebuilt or need to be rebuilt. Like they're still taking out burnt vehicles and structures. You can still drive through there and it still looks burnt to a crisp. It's very depressing, actually.
Yeah, you can't just go to, like even like let's say there was a giant like hurricane or whatnot. You know how people always go to like the gym, the high school gym or something like that. It's a big location. Yeah, that's rough. That's that
Yeah.
that's that's hard to really digest all that and try to stay in front of a camera and stick with what you need to say.
Yeah, yeah, like I called out that day. I was emergency alert never sent. So people were just kind of figuring it out, looking outside, which is really bad. And the county, of course, has no answers. And that's a big story we've been delving into, which has been interesting to say the least. But yeah, it was just crazy. And I called my boss and I said, hey, I can't even get out of this traffic. I don't even know if I have a home. I have to call off work tonight because that was one of those instances with my mental health. I was already devastated because you could just see the smoke, and it's really hard thinking, is my stuff burning right now? Am I losing my everything? Which granted, I have my life, my pets, and I grabbed what I could when I evacuated, but I really thought I lost everything, and that was just really tough thinking I'd have to start over again. So
Hmm.
not fun. The 0 out of 10 experience.
Are you trying to scale it? You just say 0 out of 10.
It was a 0 out of 10
Oh,
experience.
that's what you mean. Okay. I thought you meant
Yeah.
like in a scale of 0 to 10, I would be like, I was like, wait, what?
No. Yeah, but then literally I couldn't sleep that night. I don't think anybody really did. I was up till 5 a.m. just watching. We had our live stream because we have like a manor cam above the valley we usually use for like weather. Our meteorologist can be like, oh, take a look at Medford right now. Well, it worked conveniently, and literally you could just watch the flames move through the towns. So for hours, and it was connected to the scanners,
Mhm.
like the police and fire. So you could just hear, like the police, this place evacuated. You could hear firefighters like, we're out of water. We're out of water. There's no more water, requesting extinguishers. There were no extinguishers. So that's also why it was so terrible, because not only were the 80-mile-per-hour winds propelling it, but there was no water because they were running out of water. So it had all the right fuel, and it was just dry enough for it to just take off. And it was just terrible, terrible, terrible. Never ever want to see anything like that happen to my hometown or my community ever again. But the next day I got up, even though I'd only had probably 2 hours of sleep, went right back to work and said, I'm here. This is my duty. I'm supposed to be out here informing the community, especially right now, of what's going on. And I can't sleep and I can't function anyway, so I might as well be here and do the work. So I went out and reported, because coincidentally the South Oban Chain fire, which was in the Eagle Point Shady Cove area, started the same exact day the Alameda fire did. So we had 2 fires on each end of the valley, just completely roaring. And then the embers flew and started another fire in the middle in Central Point, but they got that one under control. It really felt like everywhere was burning or under some sort of evacuation order, and it looked like the apocalypse because it was gray from the smoke and everything is just.
When you had that day when you called out and you heard all of this stuff over the scanners, were you like, this must be a movie? This isn't really happening. Did you have that kind of moment where you're like delusion? I don't know, like delusion, just like,
It was, yeah, it was definitely surreal, but I also knew that it was happening, and it was just more than anything heartbreaking, because then like a whole Facebook thing came up, and it was like, mark yourself safe from the fire, because it was
I
that big of a deal. I guess Facebook like sends out a thing, you know.
I saw that. I saw that. Like a bunch of people like, we're safe. I was like, what? I didn't know you were in danger. So
Yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, and like once that came up, then you could just see thousands of people posting, like, anybody know of any hotels? Like, everybody needed shelter, and we didn't have to stay at overnight when it first happened. And I think that's still the case for some of them. And honestly, a lot of people also just moved away.
Mm.
But we also still have, like, so we had a housing crisis before the fire. So you can only imagine how terrible it is. It's not funny. I just don't know how else to think about it. It's just, yeah, it's awful.
I've seen some adults use laughing as kind of a coping mechanism to try to like defuse
Hmm.
the intensity of the situation. Um,
Hmm.
but you mentioned that you were living with a roommate. Have you checked in with that person? How are they doing? Are they able to find something else somewhere else to live?
Hmm. Yeah, she found something like the next week right away, which is really awesome. And actually, she works with me, so
Oh,
I see her most of the time. Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
And so, as far as the recovery process is going for all the fire damage, how would you? Is it kind of encouraging to see like the changes that it's starting to go through? Because I know when we had the Multnomah fires, I was like, okay, it was really devastating because I've gone hiking there, I have so much experience there, but then every time like I drive by, let's say the Hood River,
Hmm.
and I see it starting to turn green, I'm just like, ah, progress feels good. Have you had that feeling when it comes to the
Yeah,
fires?
and leaves and everything will come back, but right now it's still pretty bad. I mean, they definitely did. They brought out helicopters and did some seeding all along the freeway and stuff. And so there's like a little bit of grass, but other than that, it's still pretty ugly. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah. I feel weird asking this, but Medford does house the only blockbuster left in the world. Is it still up?
Medford? No, that's Bend.
Oh, Ben, damn it. Wow, I feel worse now. Ugh, not a good look for me. And as far as for
It would
you,
be awesome.
right? As far
Hmm.
as for you, when you got done covering the fires and then you got home, what was that cleaning process just for you to get clean again? What was that like? How many with how much hair you have, I feel like that one probably took a long time.
It actually wasn't terrible. It was really sad leaving that apartment because I had actually only lived there for 4 months. Then the fire hit. So it just kind of felt like I guess I haven't felt like a sense of stability other than my career. Like, I've just been moving and moving. I just miss having a place of my own and my own home. But for some reason, life just keeps throwing like curveballs, and I'm just taking it and going with it as I can. So when I mentioned like the housing crisis, that's why I'm stuck here right now, because I've really been struggling to find anything. Like, I'm on a rental wait list because each unit has about 6 to 10 applicants.
Wow. How committed are you to staying in Medford? I understand your career's here, but if I guess I don't want to ask like, have you given up on the idea of leaving or staying in Medford? Now, have you searched at maybe some places, maybe like a little more north of Medford or maybe some other
Not
town?
not yet, and I'm not sure how much of this I can actually discuss per my contract. But my
That's fine.
contract does expire in July 2022.
Okay.
So at that point, it's fair game. I'm required to go to a top 70 market. So that gives me 70 different cities to choose from. And a lot of them are not Oregon based.
Mm.
So I know that I'm probably going to leave the state after this. Could I stay at Kobe and, sign on longer? Absolutely, if I wanted to stay here. But I've made it very clear to them and to my family, I like it here. This is definitely home, but it is not where I want to stay. And if I really want to build my career up as a reporter and a journalist, you have to move to those bigger cities.
Mm.
So I plan on leaving here when my contract expires, right now, at least. I
Okay.
don't know where I'm going to go. I haven't looked in it too much because it's like a year and a half away, but you know, I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to get my reel together and make it more current because, again, the first reel I have is just my old college garbage, and that will not get me hired. So
At least put one in there. Okay. Just like, this is where I started. Oh, I'm over here. That progress. Is that progress?
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So I have no idea how to transition to this, but I saw something on your Instagram about a Jackson County livestock auction. What? What? Can you please dive in?
So, do you remember? Okay, so you remember earlier when I told you I was really involved with 4-H and I was the president of my club?
Mhm.
So I raised pigs when I was all the way from the time I was in fourth grade till I graduated high school. And through 4-H, I did like a lot of community service and stuff too. So if you're familiar with 4-H, are you? Do you know what it is?
Let's elaborate. Yeah, 4-H. What is 4-H? Just so I mean,
Okay,
it's for
so
everyone else.
4-H.
I'm just yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so what about? Do you know like FFA? Have you heard of that?
Dive on
This is
in.
some country stuff. Okay, so FFA is Future Farmers of America,
Okay.
and basically all of it, 4-H is like the baby version of that, but you can stay in it throughout high school. You don't have to switch to FFA if you don't want to, and I never did. I loved 4-H, so I stayed with it.
Okay.
Basically, you can raise livestock, you can do baking, cooking, sewing, um, horticulture. I also did that. It's an entity of things. And basically, every year at our county fair, you compete against each other.
Hmm.
So with me, I did pigs. These are pigs that go through market classes, and then you take them in the show ring, and there's a judge who like ranks them, I guess you could say, and then they get sold in an auction, kind of like a rodeo. I'm talking like going once, going twice, blah, 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 that sort of thing. You sell it to the local businesses here, buy the meat.
Oh.
So it's kind of cruel in a sense, but it's not, because it teaches you so much as a kid about responsibility and doing your own thing. And then again, like the club itself, the way it was structured with like president, treasurer, and all that stuff, it kind of taught you as a kid those roles, I guess. So it applies to life in general, I feel like. And so um, everything with that shifted this year. So I found a kid who was doing the pig thing because, I understand it. I pitched it to my director and he liked it, and it actually turned into a sponsored series by a local grocery store. Yeah. So that was
Yes.
awesome.
All
That was
right.
awesome.
There you go.
Yeah. So
Now,
that's what that is. I know it's hard to really break all of it down because there's a lot to it, but
yeah.
definitely just Google it if you want to know more.
Yeah, because the photo I saw was with you in a pig.
Mhm,
And then I was like, live auction. That's kind of where my mind went to. Livestock
mhm,
auction. I was like, I assume she's raising this pig to get sold to a butcher or just a meat
mhm.
market.
It does. Yep.
How, I mean, God, I thought I had this down. Compartmentalized. How was that when it came to seeing a pig go from baby to adult and now bacon? How were you able to
You
turn
know
those
what?
emotions off?
It literally only bothered me like my first and second year doing it. And then after that, I did it for like a decade straight. It was a process. The way I think of it, I know some people think it's just the worst. It's the most inhumane. And I would disagree, because think about the meat that you pick up from feedlots. Those animals go in there and just get like knocked out and processed for your plate. The animals that I raised got to grow up with me, run around on 10 acres. They were bathed. These were show pigs. They weren't just like roll in the mud and then thrown out. I mean, they had a good long little life with me, and probably more so exciting than a feedlot would have ever been. So that's the way
Okay.
I think of it. And at the same time, I would make like $5,000 every summer. So
Whoa.
yeah, it's per pound. You sell per pound. So, these hogs can get up to like 280 pounds, I think is the cutoff. Yeah.
Now, did any of the money you made through this auction go towards paying off University of Oregon and all your student loans, or is it just it was all gone as soon as you
No,
high
actually,
school?
No, I saved it, but actually I invested it into my first car. So from there, I got my first car and then I sold that car. And then I don't know if you remember, I had the Mustang when I was in college. That kind of came from the pig money as well, because I was reserve champion. So if there were like 300 pigs in the barn that I was competing against, I was fourth place overall, which was amazing. I got like the belt buckle and like a giant sign.
What?
And all the stuff. And so the better you place, the closer you sell at the beginning, the more likely you're going to make more money. So that year I made like $10,000. I swear to God, if you could be a professional 4-H showman your whole life, I would just stuck with that and finessed the heck out of it.
Oh my gosh. Now, I used to name my cars. I don't do it anymore just because I just lost track. Did you name the Mustang or your current car after the pig, your most recent pig that you sold?
No, I never named it after the pigs ever. My cars. So my Mustang, I thought she was sexy red, so I named her Scarlet because that just fit her. It had nothing to do with the pig.
It just has to do with Scarlett Johansson, right?
I mean, it was obviously every time I drove it. Yes, exactly.
Do you ever, now for that kid that, did the same thing you did as far as raising pigs, how much were you just reminiscing about your time then?
Oh God, like the whole time, but I couldn't get into it too much either because it was heavily modified because of the pandemic. So it was like not the same as what I did at all. It was still the same, but not, I couldn't connect with it the same way, but the nostalgia was still there. It was still in the same arena and the same expo and all that stuff, but it was weird. It was really fun seeing him do it, and like he did pretty good. So of course it's always an honor again to like tell somebody's story, especially when it's like that close to home for me. So yeah.
Oh, now do you ever follow up with the people you interview? Like for this kid, let's use this kid as an example. Have you followed up with him since it released and maybe a little bit down the line, see how he's doing? Or you're just like, I can't do that?
Not with him, and not entirely, because he's in 7th grade or probably 8th grade now.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
And also project right now. So like if I wanted to do like a follow-up story, for example, then I would probably reach out maybe a couple months before showtime and just kind of be like, hey, how are things going? But I don't think this is a story I would follow up on because I kind of made it, that's why it was so much bigger. And it was a series. So it was like 5-minute segments and 2-part 5-minute segments versus like for the regular newscast, generally a package is like 1:30. So I really got more time to work on that and be more creative with the storytelling aspect, which I enjoyed so much because I was a 4-H kid for so long, I knew the sounds I wanted for gnats. I knew what kind of sound I wanted from him to say. So I had time to formulate my questions, if you will, and kind of manipulate it to my advantage, I guess.
I mean, sometimes it's the wordings we choose. It's just like, it doesn't sound great, but it's the most accurate description for my process. But it works because, for like, let's say this podcast, obviously two different planes. But after I release the episode, I like to just follow up with the guests, just text here or there, and be like, "Hey man, how you doing?" For the people that are like, I have a friend, like a relationship with outside of the podcast. So like for you, for example, it's like after guest release, I'm going to check in with you. We'll talk a little bit more, but I know you're busy. So, it's also nice my goal this year is to reconnect with people. Mariah, you're on that list too.
Woo-hoo. I'm here. So this was cool. Thank you for, having me and chatting with me. I don't even remember the last time we talked. So it's definitely when we were still in school. This is the first podcast I've ever been a guest for. And again, it's just been very interesting being on the other side, but it's kind of nice. I don't have to think about it as much.
That's what I tell some people. So, again, for people that always listen or watch the show, they know that I've voiced my process when it came to talking with potential guests. You get a topic list, we go through that way, how the conversation is going to go. And then I've like a few people
they would be like, oh, I didn't really take a quick peek. I didn't take a long peek at it, but I just, it's just a conversation. I was like, yeah, you're bringing all this information. You're bringing all the answers. Let me be the Sherpa to this journey of an episode. So for me, growing up, when I see reporters or see any kind of anchors, and then I see them on public, I tend to like go a little star crazy or just like starstruck. I'm like, oh my God, I've seen you on TV. Has that happened with you? I mean, obviously, this is also your town you grew up in, but when you walk around the street, like let's say it's kind of hard to do with your hair. I mean, I'm going. Your hair's in a ponytail right now,
Yeah.
but when it's down, it's hard not to miss you again.
It's not as crazy as it used to be, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's still curly, but it's not. I don't think it's as poofy. It's a lot longer now too.
That's true. How do you handle that extra public attention?
So honestly, I haven't experienced it too much, and I'm going to tie that to the fact that, again, did not get a ton of exposure because of COVID. When I say like he wasn't letting us do live shots, we weren't in studio. We were just all in the background doing, so people didn't see me. They might have heard my voice if I tracked my package, but I feel like people haven't really, now it's really shifting and I'm getting more exposure. I've had more people like reaching out to me on my professional Facebook page. I really had an instance where somebody walks up to me in the store and is also like to thank masks for that. Honestly, I think that's one of the main reasons people can't recognize me. And I will put my hair up when I'm in town most of the time because I don't want people to recognize me. I'm very cautious of making sure people don't notice who I am if they might, but also a lot of people who watch the news are way older. And, usually the places I hang out, there's more younger people and they have no idea who I am. So it's kind of nice. I don't feel that. I mean, I definitely know when I go with my mom's like, oh my God, those people were looking at you. Those people were looking at you weird. And I kind of feel like I haven't had anybody come up personally and be like, hey, but there's definitely a lot of weird looks. I've definitely noticed people kind of like give me like, where do I know you from kind of look, like I've seen you before, but I'm not going to say anything kind of looks. I think I get that more often, but I'm so good with nobody approaching me. If they do, it's just like, hey, thanks. I've had a guy pull up to me in the news car. Again, I was at working, so it was easy to identify me, but he was like, roll the window down. I was like, crack the window. Cause some people aren't a big fan of journalists right now.
Yeah.
So I'm a little hesitant. I was expecting to be told I was fake news, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
That happens.
How do you deal with all this negative comments that get thrown in your direction because of your profession?
I just smile and wave.
You smile and wave.
Thanks for watching. Thank you. You treat them with kindness. I don't care enough. These people are usually trolls and usually not the most educated per se. Some of the things they say to me and some of the things they post are links to things that just aren't true or verified. And it's just, for the most part, I have a rule. I don't even read our comment section for the most part because you're just asking to get angry, especially because I would say Southern Oregon is very much so more conservative than liberal. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. So yeah, you just got to be careful.
But what if a guy's hitting on you through the comments on your professional Facebook and you just completely missed your chance? Mariah, you got to think about this.
That's okay. I would never date anybody in my comment section, so that's not an issue. I try to avoid those people. I've definitely had some creepy viewers follow me on social media, and I don't care if they follow me on social media. I know I'm a public figure, if you will. So I know people are gonna find my stuff. It's out there. I know they're gonna find me. It's just when they get weird, then I might block them because I just, I'm allowed to feel comfortable and I don't want people to be weird. Can I help you? Yeah, bye. Love you.
Love you too.
Sorry.
You're totally fine. You warned me this was going to happen, so I'm perfectly adapted.
Yep. I'm in charge of making dinner, and so now my mom's like knocking on my door, like, when are you gonna make dinner, sort of thing. And I'm like, God damn it.
I'm hungry.
I have to cook.
What are you cooking tonight?
White chicken chili, a little
Ooh,
spicy. It's chili, basically, just a little, not the traditional version with the red sauce, tomato sauce, and beef. It's chicken and beans and jalapenos, and just so good.
okay. Is that your go-to recipe?
hmm
Ah.
No, actually, it's just a recipe I found off Pinterest earlier, and it said it'd only take a half hour to make, and I was like, sweet.
Awesome. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been using Tasty's app for like meal preps. I'm a meal prepper, so
Mm,
I've been
mm.
finding some interesting ones that actually I've tried, and it's like, damn, okay, these guys know what they're doing.
That's good. Yeah, I usually do Pinterest. Occasionally TikTok has some interesting recipes, but I don't get on TikTok too much because I'm a Vine person. I don't care if that dates me. Vine was the OG, so
That's true. That's true. I have a friend who got into TikTok for a little bit, and he was like, "It's like a longer Vine. I don't know how I feel about this."
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
you enjoy the
it's
ride.
weird. hmm
So and speaking of ride, how was it writing this cheese story back in January of 17? I think I might have read this a little bit later, but because you posted something, I believe it was on your Twitter, if my memory serves correctly, where you were teasing it.
hmm
How did that story go? And also, where did that story come from?
Okay, or China that's like pitching these stories to me, but usually I never use them because I need local content, and that's not local. So actually one of these PR emails came through, and it was about the Rogue Creamery, which is local here, and it's actually a renowned little cheese store we have because they won the world's best blue cheese last year. No joke. The
Hmm.
world's best blue cheese is in Central Point, Oregon. So, fun fact. But basically, it caught my attention because they were doing this campaign. And so, it was a weekend. I'm a weekend reporter, and so content is a lot slower on those days. So I just reached out to the Rogue Creamery and said, hey, I'd love to do a story with you. I've seen you guys are doing this new campaign. The funds go to Almeda fire victims. People are getting cheese. I was also thinking about the awesome visuals of just being in a cheese store. It was I don't know, yeah, and it worked out. The president came and met me at the store, and we did the interview, and there are some customers there that figured out the campaign because I was there, and then they ended up buying a block of the cheese, and I talked to them, and it was really cool. I like doing stories like that, that are uplifting and heartfelt, and the form of cheese as well. It just doesn't get much better than that because I love cheese. So
Have you rediscovered any of these like older foods that maybe you enjoyed when you were younger, but then when you went off to college, you forgot about, and then you rediscovered it again when you came back to Medford?
Not entirely, because honestly, I feel like Medford has expanded and gotten better in terms of like restaurants and stuff since I moved back, if
Mm.
that makes sense. It's just grown so much more. So now, like, my favorite restaurants that I could list now, like Common Block in downtown, or like Pie and Vine in Ashland, those are some of my favorites. Some of them weren't here yet, or
Oh.
they came here in like 2016 when I was like still up at school, so I didn't really get to try any of it until I came back. But
Mm.
before that, no, there was nothing that really stood out, just like your standard Red Lobster, Olive Garden, chain restaurant sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just like,
Yeah,
well, I can get this when let's say if I was back in school. So
yeah,
trying to find those like individual small businesses, small restaurants that you're
yeah,
like, let's rock and roll with those ones.
yeah, yeah. Those ones, you can't beat local. I know a lot of places use like organic vegetables or like local farms produce here, which is awesome too. I like any place that does that. So
This is gonna be a weird thought, but going back to your livestock auction, I doubt you thought about this. I doubt. But were you ever thinking like this pig? I feel like it would be in the organic category if it's in like the butcher's market, or
oh,
because you're given it a great life.
it was organic. I mean, it just ran around and it ate the best show feed around, it wasn't just slop. It was like constructed meals. So,
Yeah.
oh, it was
Yes.
definitely organic. It's probably better than anything you could buy at the grocery store. And I stand by that 100%.
You are oozing confidence with that one. Oozing.
Hair flip. I don't know.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it. I mean, this is how you this is what helped you become you.
Well, yeah, and like also just like my parents also raised their own beef, and every time I cook that meat, there's no grease,
Oh.
literally none. So
So
it's good.
for now, I'm under the assumption that you're the master at picking out the right cut of steak at the grocery store. What should we look for if I'm sorry for the vegans that are watching or listening, but when you're buying steaks in the grocery store, what is the one thing you always look for?
I don't usually buy steak. Again, I get it from my parents, but if I'm going to choose any type of cut, it'd probably be the filet mignon because it's the best. I don't know exactly what to look out for. I know there's a certain type of like, I think they call it like the marbling, which is like the fat in the meat. You definitely want some of that, but if there's a lot of it, it's probably not going to be as good because the fat, just kind of shrivels up or
Yeah.
burns. So you
Yeah.
definitely want to go for something that's a little more lean and definitely red. If it looks brown, it's probably not good. It's probably older.
Oh, now I got to rethink my meat in the fridge. Oh,
I'm sure it's fine. I'm just saying, I feel like sometimes it also depends on where you shop, I guess,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, never thought about going vegan or vegetarian because you're being around all
Nope.
these animals? Nope. Okay.
It doesn't even have to do with the fact that I grew up around the animals either. I just know I love meat. I can't cut bacon out if I had to. Like, no. I love ribs. In fact, I can't eat ribs around people because I just go like full Neanderthal. I like stick a bib in and I just like go for it.
Well, I 100% need to see that now.
No, that is never going to happen. I'm sorry.
Mariah, I am giving you a platform to tell your story and have a great photo moment.
Oh my God. Well, actually, what's funny about that is my mom has always joked because I've always done this since I was a kid. And she's like, if you ever go on a first date, do not get ribs.
Or, if you do get like
okay.
get a small rack and then eat something beforehand, that way you just kind of eat it very slowly and a little more, cleanly. Maybe with a
Not
fork.
possible.
Nope.
Not possible with the ribs. No, I love ribs.
Speaking of the first dates, now for you, what is that? Have you tried to, get a relationship going? Obviously, it's COVID; it's kind of hard to, but not just with COVID, but you're also a public figure. Have you?
Mm-hmm.
Has that kind of, steered guys away from trying to start a relationship with you?
Well, first of all, again, I haven't really dated, so I wouldn't know for a fact if it's made any guys directly turn away. But if I had to say anything, it'd probably be that they actually like that. I know a lot of guys when they first start pursuing me kind of use that like the worst pickup line is breaking news. Just want to talk to the cute news reporter girl, blah, blah, blah. Or breaking news, you're on my mind. Breaking news is overused. It's cliche. It's just god awful. And any guy who ever wants to hit on a reporter woman, don't use breaking news.
Guys and gals, take notes.
Yes.
Take notes.
Yes. But no, I feel like they like it because it's like something for them to talk about. They really want to know about my career. And, a lot of people don't understand how journalism works. A lot of people just think you get to be the pretty person in front of the camera. And it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the end of my shift. Okay. The whole day is spent like putting it all together and getting it together. So
yeah. I mean, by that point, if you are to like, let's say, you're able to make it to a date after you're done working for the day, where's your head at? how are you able to focus? Because you just went through this marathon of a day. It's like, how can I zone in on you right now?
Again, those are special days. Not every day is that terrible. If it was, I would definitely be seeing a therapist. Let's put it that way.
That blonde in your hair would be white.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the most part, it's fine. It's kind of nice because it's just switching gears. I go from my professional world into back to, okay, I'm just Mariah. I'm not Mariah the reporter. I'm Mariah me
Mhm.
going out to get a drink with somebody and dinner, and it's fine for the most part. And also, if I do have a date, I try to schedule it on my days off so I don't have to worry about that, because I also usually when I get off work, I'm in my full like news outfit. I don't usually bring backup clothes to change into, so it's like I don't want to like meet up with somebody and be in like my anchor jacket and like my skirt for work and like, be business professional, and everybody else is wearing like casual street clothes. I'd stick out like a sore thumb. So, yeah.
Here, you could test this guy out. So let's say you're on a date and then you do go and see him like after work. You could really test the limit and just go in like leggings and like a sweater and just be like, you gotta take me at this level, buddy. You can't get you if you want anything more, good luck.
I try not to scare them off on the first date, maybe the second. Maybe the second. You gotta, I don't know, you gotta take it slow at first,
You
I think.
gotta, I mean, yeah, especially with you having as busy as a schedule as you do, it's like you really gotta make an
Mhm.
impression for me to like invest my
I
extra time.
usually, and I usually tell the person if I'm like talking to somebody, like, hey, don't take it personally, but I'm not always going to respond to you. Like, it could be 8 hours before I get back to you because I'm so busy, and it's nothing personal. I'm just not on my phone because I don't have a moment to even glance at it. And I try to let them know that there's going to be delays. There's going to be times where you don't hear from me, but it's nothing personal. It's just me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, how do you keep yourself physically? How do you physically de-stress? Is it like working out, or is it running? Is it? Oh, never mind. There it is. Just get the curls in, right?
Yeah, I have a gym membership. I mean, this is more like I purchased these for at home because the gym is like always open and then close and then open and then close. So I have these for at home, and then I have like some ankle weights, if you know
Mhm.
what those are.
Yep. Yep.
So I have those, and that's like my basic stuff for here if I have to do any at home workouts. But I do have a gym membership to like Anytime Fitness. So what I
Mm.
usually do, honestly, and that's a big thing for my mental health. So I don't just bottle it up. For me, going to the gym is very big. Um, I go there and I feel like I sweat it out. And when I'm like angry or emotional, I can just be like, like really get those reps in.
I'm picturing that right now.
But
That's
I usually
great.
go after work. So, yep. Yep.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
it's effective. I mean, sweating it out works for me. And when the gym shut down, I felt like I was going insane, which is why I went to like TJ Maxx or Marshalls, and this was like $15, and I was like, heck yeah. It's not the same, obviously, but I need that physical release, I guess.
Yeah. I have a Crunch membership, and they're like, oh, their gyms are still closed, but here is this app or this website you can go to, and we like post all these workouts, and here are other ways. Have you tried to maybe dive into exercise that way to try to test your body, or are you just sticking with the ankle weights and barbells
Ankle
or
weights and
dumbbells?
barbells at home, dumbbells
Dumbbells.
at
Okay.
home. When I'm at the gym, I don't know, like when I was at U of O, I used to take like tons of like yoga and CrossFit classes and stuff. So I know how to push myself, but I also know how to just use the gym equipment. So I
Mm.
just kind of do my own thing, and I do push myself. Like I have my I'm not wearing it right now, but I have my Apple Watch, and this thing has completely changed the game for me because it always keeps track of everything I do, and it kind of pushes me to keep going because it inspires me to like break the last record and get the awards you can unlock. And it's, yeah, I don't know. It's great. I love it. I mean, I get a mix of cardio, get on the elliptical, then I go work on my shoulders, and I go down and do abs, and I just kind of float around, but I still push myself. If I'm not sweating, then it's not worth it.
I know I've been doing at-home workouts. So, we're recording on the 29th, on February 1st. That's when their gyms are opening up again. But prior to
Mhm.
that, I was using, some other apps that have workouts, and I wouldn't be
Mhm.
sweating, but I'd be like breathing heavy, and I'll just be like, oh dear God, why does it hurt so much, but feels so good?
Yeah. I do the one app I will use if I do want some like instruction is the Nike training app.
That's what I use too. I just
Yep.
wanted to, I guess I should have mentioned it that way. Maybe I can get sponsored by Nike for, I got to reach for something, right?
I think Uncle Phil could do that for you very easily.
That's the
So,
least he could do. That's the least he could do. Come on, man.
you know what? They could also put like air conditioning in DD Hall finally, but why not throw up another athletic center?
Yeah, there are so many changes. I believe they changed the name of DD Hall from what I remember. I
Did they?
think,
I know they were gonna change it because it had like a racist background or
yeah.
something, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard
Mhm.
too. Like they're looking to change it, but I'm not sure if they found anything to replace
I
it.
don't know if they ever actually did. I know that they were in pretty good discussion about it, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
I remember seeing on Twitter someone suggesting the LaMichael James Hall. I was like,
It's a little too far, but
yeah, he was just a player. I mean, he transcended the football program fine, but it's like I don't think to that extent where he should get a
I
whole
know.
hall.
Yeah, we're already a sports school. I do think it's cool they just opened up that like huge science center, with the one that has like the glass dome thing, you can walk across the road.
Yeah.
That was a terrible explanation.
No,
If
it's
you look at the
I'll
picture, you would understand.
and insert photo during post right now. Yeah, when I went to Eugene and again to see the new stadium or the new Hayward Field, yeah, I saw that, and I also
Mhm.
remember that used to be Domino's, and then there was also an Indian buffet place because it's like on that pathway to Autzen Stadium. I was like,
Mhm.
oh well, goodbye Domino's. That was fun while it lasted, I guess.
At least it wasn't Tracktown. I know it's expensive, but it was good.
It's the hometown. It's the the small town
Mhm.
or the hometown pizzeria. That's the word I was trying to say.
Yep. Yep.
Well, Mariah, before your mom gets too mad because you haven't cooked yet, uh, I like to end my
Did
interview.
you before she gets hangry?
Yeah, she was gonna destroy that door, and I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry. So I like to ask
That's okay.
I like to ask two questions out of this packet of 170 hypothetical questions to end my interviews, just to have a little fun with it. So yeah, I'm only gonna give you two, but if you want to do the whole
Okay.
170, we can arrange that for another episode. So my first question to you, uh, no, I thought about this one to ask you because you are a reporter, you do write stories and you do news coverages. So if every time you snapped your finger, you would instantly be transported to a random point in humanity's timeline, would you snap your fingers? If so, how often? And let's add,
Probably
what era would you go to?
I would probably snap my fingers all the time and I would probably go to the past. I'm one of those people, if you will. I think the future is kind of its own entity. So I'd probably go to the 80s or the 90s, mostly because I would fit in with my hairstyle. I could really throw on some leg warmers and just rock the heck out of it.
Well, there you go. There you go. I was watching this
Mhm.
show on HBO Max called The Deuce, which is about the rise of the porn industry in the 80s. So, seeing all of the cars, seeing all the fashion, yeah, you would fit it right in. I would say yes, just because, yeah, I do like reminiscing on, um, the past and going down memory lane. I would say, oh, God, 90s. That was a fun time. It's still referenced to this day. All these 90s musics and 90s music, 90s fashion, 90s TV shows. So it'd be nice
Yeah.
to go back to when it all got released and just relive that.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I was a 95 baby. So I feel like I was smack dab in the middle of the 90s era and obviously what I remember until I was 5 is pretty limited. So I just think it'd be kind of cool to go back and actually see what it was
Yeah.
like, because I just know it is so different compared to now, for sure. For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm 91, so I feel a little old now that I've said that out loud.
Mhm.
But yeah, I vaguely
That's
remember.
not that old.
So the second question is, if you were perpetually surrounded by one aroma besides your natural smell, which you and everyone around you could smell, what would it be? So basically, if you, example, it's like if you could be surrounded by the smell of barbecue sauce that other people can't smell when they're next to you, that's just an example. So what aroma would
No,
you
that's interesting.
what aroma would you
Um,
want to follow you around?
you can call this classic or vintage, but I love the smell of roses.
This works well with the
So
dress too.
yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that, but like even like my rose scent candle, so it does smell like roses in my room most of the time. I just think it's a good smell. Like you don't really like see any perfumes anymore that have too much of a rose scent. It's like old fashioned, like your grandma would wear it. But I just think it's a classic and it smells like you walked out of a garden. So
Hmm.
it's refreshing.
Do you have
Yeah.
a garden at your parents' home?
Not right now. Not right now. Because again, like we're in the process of moving this.
Well, I gave out my answer when I gave you an example. Mine would be barbecue sauce because I'm a big barbecue fan. So
I actually only use barbecue sauce for my fries. Is that weird? Because that's what I do.
no. I mean,
Mhm.
I could do that. Like the fried dishes that are becoming such a big thing nowadays, where like fries are basically the bed of it, and then you
Mhm.
just throw all that barbecue shit on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could rock with that too.
Yeah.
So Mariah, again, before your mom gets all hangry and breaks down that door, where can the people find you on social media?
The easiest way to find me, my @ handle is Mariah Mills TV, and that's for my Twitter, and it's also my professional Facebook page if they so care to. If they want to follow me on Instagram, they can. It's just my name, but with 2 H's, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Mariah Mills.
is that for your middle name?
No, it's just because some lady named Maria Miller likes to take the username Mariah Mills, and I don't know why. And
Unbelievable.
so I had to put an extra H in my name to make it work.
Ugh. Thank you for coming on the show. I understand this is one of your days off, so I appreciate you taking time and really sitting
Yeah.
down and sharing your story with me.
Yeah, no, thanks for, having me. It was good to catch up. And
Thank you so much for sticking around until the end of the episode. If you like what you heard or watched and would like more episodes from Keoni Chats, the show can be found on all major podcast platforms under Keoni Chats. A video version is available on YouTube under Keoni Chats as well. So like and subscribe on those platforms to keep in the loop as far as the next episode released. But if you would like to be a guest, go ahead and email me your story at kcmedia13@yahoo.com, and I'd love to get you scheduled. To keep up to date with all of the episode release announcements on social media, the KC Media brand can be found on Instagram and Twitter under KC Media 13. And then on Facebook, it can be found under Conluke Media. So until the next episode, everyone, please take care.